All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Wow. Oh, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you're too kind. It's as though somebody just keeps pressing the applause button. I mean, that's the way I feel. It's incredible. The Wednesday recorded audience, my favorite recorded audience. Albert is here today, everyone, and I'm excited,
Albert, thank you.
as are you. Kim is here. Chit, chit, chit. Have your act together, or Kim will come down hard on
Kim,
you.
how are you?
Yes. I'm looking forward to a big show today. We've got John Rothmann, bottom of the hour.
I blame you.
I also have a bunch of news, some of which will make you smile, some of which will horrify you. So it will all fall in between those extremes. Also some mail from people who love us, and mail from people who love us, but they'd like to see the I love you but my favorite email. So we have one of those today also. I will visit with you the meeting between Donald Trump and the Canadian Prime Minister yesterday, which we did touch on, but we haven't talked about it with Rothmann. And Mark's lighting looks a little better today. Thank you. Well, it's not a... I don't know day to day on the lighting or anything. Good morning, Karen Q. Come on, Karen Q. I will tell you that I will have my first cup of Coachella Valley coffee as we meet today. So delicious. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Oh, my God. I'm sorry, but I can't just have one. I must have another. You too can enjoy the wonderment, the deliciousness, the richness. It's bravissimo. I will tell you that, or is it riquissimo? You can find it at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, and when you go there, you get teas, spices, freshly hand-roasted coffee. Whatever you get on the site, use our discount code, MARKT, and it will lift you into a discount. 10%. It's for an elite group of participants. You are among them. Mark T is the discount code. Use it at checkout and enjoy.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right. Now, with Albert on the case, I will... everything okay in your life, Albert? I haven't seen you in a bit, Kamish. It's been... I feel like it's been a week or so. Maybe
no,
even
everything's
longer.
good. The Sharks got the second overall pick, and the Giants won a crazy extra inning game. They scored 14 runs
Against the Cubs, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, against the Cubs. It's like you think it's an extra innings game, you win by 1 or 2. They
Sure.
won by a lot. So
Yeah.
very exciting times in my life.
I know you. Aren't you Catholic?
I am, yeah, and I'm hoping for a Filipino pope.
There's a real chance of a Filipino pope. That's exactly right.
Yeah, if we get a Filipino pope, I don't know what the Philippines will be like. It will be very exciting.
Yeah. You think they'll do kind of like what the city of Detroit does when they win a championship, and they'll just go nuts and tear everything down?
Yeah.
Right.
Or whenever a Canadian team loses in the Stanley Cup playoffs, they'll just tear it apart. And,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
no, I think it'll be a celebration. I think it'll be exciting. And I heard they opened up a Jollibee, a Filipino fast food chain in Vatican City recently.
Wow.
What?
Is that true?
That is true. Unless Instagram is lying to me, but I will believe that it's true, and I believe that it's a sign. So
Oh, well.
we're looking for the smoke.
It's a wild idea, but it just might work.
I'm not looking for the smoke from the Vatican. I'm looking for the smoke from the fried chicken fryers.
I see. You know, in the movie Conclave, which a lot of people saw and should see, it's a really good movie. They have the vote for a new pope, and it's what's going on now, but they have it in these very kind of luxurious surroundings, and they're very colorful and very, telegenic, photogenic. But if you actually go to the Sistine Chapel, there is a small-ish chamber. I mean, obviously it has to accommodate all of those cardinals and stuff, but it's not some expansive room. And it's really pretty barren. I mean, it's not actually the way it was represented in the film. At least when I was there 10 years ago, and not everybody can see it. I got this special tour. I think I've mentioned it to you before, before the Vatican opened, before the doors were open to the public. And it was through a connection. It's kind of a funny story. I won't tell the whole story now, but it was a connection through Oprah Winfrey, believe it or not. And so I'm thinking, oh my God, I got to tip this guy $1 jillion for getting us in there. But he had access to everything. And
who is having that conversation?
So,
are you a friend of Oprah?
What?
well, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. I mean,
Like Dr. Phil?
No is the answer.
No.
But I
Oh.
knew somebody who was a friend of Oprah. So
Okay.
anyway, the point is that I went into this room, and it's not this plush environment. In fact, the toilet there, I don't mean to talk about it, but this is where they vote for the Pope. There is a little bathroom, as you can imagine. And as I recall, it's like this wood toilet seat, and that all the benches that they sit on, they're wood also. And I was talking to the guy who was giving me the tour, and I said, why? It just seems like this is a kind of a Spartan room.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, they don't want the guys to hang out. They don't want them just, partying, sitting back, shooting the breeze. They want them to vote and get out. And so the surroundings are deliberately a little less luxurious. And so when you watch the movie Conclave, it's all luxury. But in reality, at least 10 years ago, it was the way that I just described. So anyway, good luck. Yeah, no Prada gold toilet like is at Trump Tower. The best of luck from this show to the Filipino Pope. I hope that happens, and that would be really exciting. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
also, I wanted to pick up a couple of things. I have loose ends, and they relate to. We like to start with a lighter story occasionally. I'll get you that, and then I'll get you the email. And
Are
the
you
lighter
saying
story.
We're going from the Pope to strippers? This is good.
Yeah,
Keep
right.
carry
It really
That's
is.
great.
I told you it's the full breadth on this
Mhm.
program. So there is a place in San Francisco, California, the city from which we come and birth to this show. This place is called the Gold Club. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the Gold Club. Mhm.
Okay. Were you familiar with it already? Is it a strip club or what is it?
Well, it is a gentleman's club. It's a strip club, yeah. And
Okay.
that's what it is. And it's been I think more than 5 years ago. It was named the best tech lunch for people in San Francisco. Because, when you go out to lunch in San Francisco, even if you work there, you're going to pay a lot of money for lunch. It's just an expensive city.
Right.
And so this is a place where workers can go for lunch and get a cheap buffet, all you can eat style thing. And so it was in this national magazine and it became a thing.
Now, this cheap lunch to which Kim refers
Mhm.
is a $5 buffet with apparently this terrific chicken. Isn't that right? It's got like some kind of.
Yeah, you get chicken, you get
Albert
rice
loves that.
pilaf or a rotating side, you get some fruit salad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
it
they
really
pack
is.
'em
It's,
in.
it's really $5.
It's $5 and it's every Thursday. And it closed down because of the pandemic.
Oh,
And
sure.
now, like maybe 3 weeks ago, they brought it back.
Yeah, it was
and
a
the
5-year
lines-
break.
Yeah. the
And if
lines
you're
are
just
crazy.
listening, Albert is showing you the sumptuous chicken offerings and the rice
Yeah.
pilaf sides. But Albert and look at that. There they are, the buffet attendees
Sure.
manning the buffet. That's the line. Look at that. This is a line that goes halfway down the block to get into this Gold Club.
Hey, $5 lunch. I don't care where it is. Everyone's
I mean,
going
Yeah.
I can't really tell because the car is driving by, but it looks to me like there are not a lot of tech entrepreneurs on that line.
And really,
know.
the $5 is your cover to get into the club. You happen to get brunch in there, but you also get free entertainment, Mark.
Oh, so they're really semi-nude women
Yeah.
or something like that, huh?
Fried
That's-
chicken and dancing. Doesn't get better
Hell
than
yeah.
that. Good morning,
Go
San
for the
Francisco.
wings. Yeah, go for the wings, stay for the breast. We
Yeah.
love that.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
come
Yeah.
on. That's what I'm talking about. That's why Albert is so wonderful. And it's
Yeah.
Albert, thank you.
now, is there anything else out of the magnificent city of San Francisco that I need to pay attention to? No.
Mm.
All right, good. I I thought the other story that was worth noting was the fact that Linda McMahon, the Secretary of Education in this country now, she sent a letter to Harvard. You know, this administration is pulling university funding across the board to various universities that have DEI programs. It seems also those that fall into the category of fostering anti-Semitism, et cetera. It's a very, I think, tortured reason that they do this, but they are, in my judgment, putting the squeeze on any number of institutions, academic institutions, legal institutions, media institutions, et cetera. But that's a broader conversation. But the reason I mention it now is she sent a letter to Harvard, and Harvard responded to Linda McMahon's letter sent to them by annotating and correcting all of the mistakes that she made, grammatical and other. You can see them here.
So I have to tell you, I don't think Harvard responded with that. I think it's a meme.
Oh.
I don't think Harvard actually took the red pen to her letter.
That would have been great. That would have been great.
It would have been beautiful. And whoever came up with this is awesome. But I don't think this was the actual response. But it's hilariously funny.
Well, that's why you're here to check our work. Make sure it really is funny. You can see they look at tense. They look at. I mean, it really is. Well, you can see it there. Yeah.
Perhaps that Ms. McMahon, the Secretary of Education, might need some more education.
Yeah. So even though Harvard didn't do it, somebody did it to point out all of the different problems with the email, and so there it was. Okay, good stuff. The other thing I wanted to, by the way, $10. What is that? A $10 super chat from Terry K for Albert's line. What was the line again, Albert?
Oh, go for the wings, stay for the breasts.
Yes, there you go.
Nice.
All right. Anyway, big shout out. Thank you, Terry. $10 super chat for noting that. And finally, let me just get to the emails for the day, because
I've received a lot of positive letters.
There was the following. Hi, Mark. Love your show. You and the crew are helping to keep me sane. Maybe I missed it, but would you please explain how I can make a donation to the Spring Ka-Ching? We're in the middle of Spring Ka-Ching, which is our big spring fundraiser. Is it through the Patreon monthly donations, or I would love it sometime if you could discuss during the show how to do the super chats also, or even make comments during the show so we can participate in real time. I am very opinionated and would like to contribute. Keep up the good work, Gail. Now, Albert, will you take this one? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I think super chats and super stickers, you can find them at the bottom, I believe, of the comment when we're live. Go ahead. You can
like during there's a live chat. I'm trying to pull it up as I speak. There's a live chat, and you could there's a plus sign. You just hit the plus sign, and you could add a donation to your comment, or you can even just simply comment. And if you're just active in our chats, we do read regular chats as well.
Yeah. Well, you can feel free to make a comment without having to donate to the show.
Is it a plus sign, or is it a heart with a dollar sign?
Heart with a dollar sign, I think, is if it's after the live show.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah. But Albert's got it up there now.
It is. It's right next to the plus sign, actually.
It's a dollar sign.
Show your support.
Right, so there's a heart, there's a dollar, and dollar sign, and then there's a plus sign. Yeah.
Thanks, Gail. But thank you, Gail. Not everybody really wants to talk about money all the time, Mark.
No, exactly. In fact, to the so the answer on Spring Ka-Ching is through Patreon or PayPal, and there are click-throughs to both under all our videos.
Albert's really getting high up there. Look at that.
Very impressive, sir.
Yeah,
very impressive. So the other email I got related to
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Today I was listening to the podcast in my car on my way home and was initially on board with Kim's comments about how the people that attended the Met Gala were out of touch because it was also over the top. You seem to enjoy.
I didn't say that.
I was going to get to that, Kim.
Okay.
Well,
carry on.
But because we've stopped, let me just say, Kim didn't make the comment. Teacher Lori made the comment. She's a regular in our chat, and she was saying it's tone deaf to have this over-the-top celebration, as Jillionaires walk the red carpet in these gowns that cost so much money, et cetera. It's just this conspicuous consumption, which is at odds with a lot of the struggles that Americans are having, also in this tense time economically, et cetera. Is this really not tone deaf? She was making that comment. Neither or neither. Used to say neither. Went for neither this time.
Okay.
I think either or either is okay.
I think so.
But neither of us, Kim or myself, made any comments about it. But then we kind of, respecting teacher Lori, said, yeah, I guess it's not. But then she goes on, this person who wrote the letter, her name is Mary. I am disappointed that neither one of you did your homework, because then when I watched The View, I found out that they raised over $30 million for the Metropolitan Museum, and the Black Dandy movement was a way of Black empowerment.
Point
also,
of order.
Yes, Kim did mention this. Yeah,
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I did mention I read the definition of Black Dandyism. We talked about how it is empowering and how they've taken a form of dress to use for empowerment. So we did talk about that. But
we did talk.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah,
we didn't mention the $30 million. I'll give her that.
That's correct. We didn't. And I feel like that was, to be fair to Mary, kind of a key part of it. Hey, guys, I understand they're over the top, but they raised a ton of money for the Metropolitan Museum. She says, also, just as an aside, I love your takes on politics. You're brilliant and smart and witty. Why couldn't she just stop there?
But no.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
But I am really worn down by the plea for money. I understand you need to do it, but it doesn't have to really take most of the first hour. Just saying, Mary. Well, I respect, as you know, and feel the audience. Not only do I respect them, but I feel like they have agency. They have, they're stakeholders in this show. So especially if you're someone who donates to the show, comes to the show regularly, I really respect your opinion. But Kim and Albert will tell you this. I take everybody's opinion maybe too seriously, and so we always struggle to not make it like a telethon. So if you'll notice, if you're with us for a lot of the time we've been on the air, we've gone through hills and valleys on this, because typically when things are going well, I may lay off. I've had entire days where I haven't even mentioned a fundraising at all. I'll mention smash the like button, but I don't go through the whole fundraising thing. We're in a legitimate crisis right now, which is the only reason I think maybe it's getting additional emphasis. But even so, and thank you, Ron Cook, for the super sticker.
Big shout out.
$20 super sticker. That's really cool of you. Tell Mary I will sponsor her $5. Daryl Leffler, wow, $50 with the super chat.
Big shout out.
Because of our fiscal crisis, thank you, Daryl. That's super generous. We really have no choice but to come to you and say, hey, here's our situation, and to hope that you can help sustain us. So I don't want it to be obnoxious, and we were talking before the show. I'll try to segregate it so that we keep a lot of the content free of it. And you'll note, when we do long-form interviews, I talked with David K. Johnston yesterday for 40 minutes. Now, I never interrupt that 40 minutes with a pitch for money, right? And we'll talk to John Rothmann, for 20 or 30 minutes maybe. And during that 20 or 30 minutes, I'll never pitch for money. So, but I do understand how it can be a little much, and I don't like doing it. It's the one thing when we came to this platform that I told everybody, I told you right here on the air that I hated it, because I'm used to radio and television. We're ad supported. I don't ever pitch money. I just worry about content. But here, it's a different story. Wes, thank you for the $5 super sticker too.
Big
and
shout
look,
out.
thank you for the feedback. And I always welcome it. And we'll always try to integrate your thoughts into decision making that we do here. Nancy Boyd with a $20 super sticker. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Yeah. And I thank you all for responding to the call, which is kind of, I wouldn't say a desperate one, but an urgent one. We are in a situation, and I'll explain it in greater detail in the weeks ahead, but we'll wrap this up, hopefully before too long, so that we can try to kind of get back to magnetic north from a fiscal standpoint. But that's kind of where we stand. How do we donate without using third-party apps? You donate. Well, you can, if you send us an email, I can send you an address where you can, and some people have done that. In fact, I want to kind of collect those people and give them a shout. I'm behind on my shout outs, believe it or not. I know it seems like we do a lot of them, but so many through Patreon and PayPal. But if you send me an email at themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com, I'll send you back an address where you can send a check or something if you're more comfortable with that. It's themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. But the easiest, I think, almost frictionless way to contribute to the show is super stickers and super chats while we're on the air. And of course, Patreon and PayPal under all of our videos. There are live links, and you click on them and you go right to Patreon and PayPal, and you can help the show that way. So thank you, everyone. We'll keep quiet about donations until after some time with Rothmann, and then I'll hit you with another request. But this is from someone else that will remain unknown, Franco. Franco, thank you for a $5 super chat. Good stuff, Franco. Thank you. I like that name, Franco. Franco feels like a name of one of those guys who'd be voting for the Pope. You know? I don't know. Got a sense of that. Have you been to the Vatican before, Albert? Feels like you should go to the Vatican. That's it for, I think, a tour of an institution and a place that every Catholic should hit.
I'm not, no, but I need to make my way over there.
So at the Vatican, I'll tell you one thing, and then we'll move on. At the Vatican, they have all jokes must be taken seriously. Seriously, says Harry Magnan. Thank you for the $7 super chat. At the Vatican, they have a Mosaic college, I think, or Mosaic University. I feel like it's called Mosaic College or Mosaic University.
Google it.
It's right alongside St. Peter's. And we got a tour of that. And the interesting thing about that, first of all, they're all artisans at the highest level. But there's only one person who can do the image of Christ. They don't let anybody do that. You can't like show up as an internship and work on that. No, it's considered sacrosanct. And so it is, sacrosanct's a ding word. And it's given to only one person. And we were there hoping that we'd see this guy, and we're about to leave. And as we're leaving, the guy comes in, and he's just this normal looking dude. There it is. Thank you, Albert. Very well done. It's the Mosaic Studio? I thought they was going to call it the Mosaic
Studio.
College. Studio, okay. Yeah. But anyway, I hope for you a chance to see the Vatican. It's really quite impressive.
I have a very short little Vatican story. My husband was in the Marines, and they went to Italy, and he was there in the throng of people to see the Pope, who was unexpectedly walked out and was shaking hands. I guess there's a gate and or a fence, and he was shaking people's hands at the fence. And my husband was standing, and his group of Marines were standing next to a group of nuns, and he lifted the nun up so that she could touch the hand of the Pope. And then
Wow.
she leans down and, like, get on my hand so you can touch the Pope, the hand. So there's this big Marine and this little nun, and she lifts him up so he can touch the Pope's hand too. And I just thought that was really cute.
That is a great
Yeah.
story. I love that. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Those kinds of stories are terrific. I really do love them. And this Pope who just passed away, Francis, was clearly, as popes go, pretty transformational with a real sense of sustainability. He was a friend to animals. I think that's how he got the name Pope Francis, in part. Was it Francis of Assisi? And anyway, the whole world of the papacy and the Vatican, it's fascinating. It's controversial, but I recommend it to all Catholics, certainly, if you can do it. It's right there in Rome, so it's a pretty good hang. Anyway, Rome's not a bad place to visit, so I'd check it out if I were you. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
I wouldn't go now because it's a little crowded right
No.
now. Yeah, when they announce that Pope
Do
thing,
you
it gets to
know
be a little crowded. But
they took down cell phone service in this whole area? They zapped it, so you can't make any phone calls. You can
Oh,
from
wow.
outside, but inside the Vatican area and in the right around that spot, the cell phone service is dead.
I'm just a few minutes away from joining John Rothmann, who joins us on Wednesdays regularly. I wanted to mention one thing about the meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister. And yesterday, I'm glad that you're here today, Commish, because he went through a thing, and I think you'll notice this as a Donald Trump reflexive move, and that is he clearly doesn't know much. He doesn't know much, I think, about economics. He doesn't know much about world diplomacy. And when I say doesn't know much, it's almost as though he doesn't know anything. I mean, when he was explaining the Declaration of Independence, he was saying it's a document of love, and it was a weird kind of listening to a kid who, hadn't done the reading. I've been saying that since we've been dealing with Trump. Trump reminds me of a guy who hasn't done the reading and still has to stand up in front of the class and talk about things. And he just kind of riffs and says stuff. So even on something as simple as Canada, he starts riffing with this, Canadians are great. I know Canadians. My mom had Canadian friends. And then, and this is why I like that Albert is working today, he starts talking about the fact that the Canadian hockey player for the Capitals just broke a record. And he is someone who's top of the game and really reminds us of how the excellence that is associated with Canadian hockey. Now, he's talking about this guy, Alex Ovechkin, right, Albert?
Yeah, and he's quoted here saying, "I love Canada. I have a lot of respect for the Canadians. You happen to have a very, very good hockey player right here on the Capitals. He's a big, tough cookie. He just broke the record, and he's a great guy, and he happened to be born in Moscow." So
Right, he didn't say that.
He didn't say that, no,
He's a
but yeah,
great guy. No one said anything, but Ovechkin is Russian, okay? He is not Canadian. He is not Canadian.
Oh.
So even on that, it was a bit tortured. But the other thing he said during this meeting, and then I'll get into some heavy politics with Rothman. But the other thing he said, and noted the border between Canada and the U.S., is he talked about the fact that the border is just sort of this straight line that somebody drew between Canada and the U.S. And I'm sure many of you were thinking, as I was, a straight line between Canada and the U.S.?
What?
Yeah, so this short, I thought, told the story well. It was sent to me by a friend of the show, Anthony Davis, and I love it because it really points up the ridiculousness of the straight line comment and how Trump clearly hasn't really even looked at a map of the U.S. and Canada and the border. Go ahead, Albert. Let's just only a minute
The border
long.
between the United States and Canada is one of the strangest borders in the world, not just because of its length, but also because of the unusual situations that happen along it. First, Windsor is a city in Canada located south of Detroit. What's special is that this is the only Canadian city where you have to go north to reach the United States. Another interesting situation is the town of Angle Inlet in the state of Minnesota, a U.S. town surrounded by Canada on one side and a lake on the other. Residents here have to cross the border every day to go about their lives. But this is not the only case. In the state of Washington, there's also the town of Point Roberts, a place in a situation no different from Angle Inlet in Minnesota. They have to travel 40 kilometers every day and go through 2 border checkpoints to go to work. Another interesting thing is in the town of Stansted, the border runs exactly down the middle of this road, and the houses on both sides of the street belong to 2 different countries. But the strangest situation is in the town of Darby Line, where some houses are built right on the border. Imagine waking up in Canada and brushing your teeth in the U.S. The border between the United
There it is. Yeah. So you realize
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I had no idea. That's awesome.
Yeah, and Mexico's the same way. Mexico, it's not a straight line border. I mean, but you're dealing with someone who, we talk about low information voters. This is a low information leader. He has no sense of the stuff he's talking about. I mean, literally none. And he hatched the Alcatraz thing, as we find out, because Alcatraz was running on television that Saturday night. And so he comes up Sunday with the idea, we should bring Alcatraz back. Yeah. And then John Voight talked to him about the beatdown that Hollywood is taking, and he talked about tariffs on foreign films. This is a John Voight championed project. Voight, a big Trump supporter, and Trump comes through with the notion hasn't been instituted yet that there should be tariffs on foreign films, on films produced outside the U.S. So, again, I think all of these things reflect critical and super consequential decision-making, but decision-making that's made based on very little information because there isn't a lot of information in that head of his. So does that home on both borders have dual citizenship? Asked CC Ryder. That's a great question.
Really good question.
It's
Yeah.
a really good question. Somebody should research that.
Right.
Like you, CC Ryder. Why don't you research that? All right. I got to get to my pal John Rothmann here, so let me do that.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. This guy's a presidential historian, author, lecturer, and our former colleague at KGO Radio. He joins us on Wednesdays. John Rothmann. Hi, John.
Happy to be with you and welcome back. And
Thank
you
you,
heard
sir.
the big news this morning.
What's that?
Donald Trump is going to announce they're changing the name of the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Gulf. That was announced moments ago. And as you may know, Donald Trump is on his way next week to Saudi Arabia. So
Yeah. Well,
can't make this stuff up.
You know, when it comes to that, just because you started there, it is more than a little bit on display, the utter corruption associated with the deals made with Abu Dhabi, with the influx of money. It's 1.2 billion, I think it was, and maybe even north of that number, that was crypto purchased by the UAE, and it was purchased on the platform that the Trump family owns. So it's like a Coinbase type thing. Think of it like Charles Schwab. That's where you trade stocks, where you trade crypto on this platform that's like that. I think it's called Liberty.
We've never had such corruption. I mean, it's just
and it's an extraordinary thing.
It makes Sherman Adams and the Eisenhower administration, who left because of a vicuna coat, it pales in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, it really is redefining a kind of open corruption. Even in the first Trump administration, there was a patina of the, shall we say, distancing himself from the family business. The family's business, I don't have anything to do with it. Yeah. Now there's none of that. And we knew in Trump 1, season 1, he had the hotel, he had the resorts. Those were all ways in which he could money himself. He did it through the Secret Service. He continues to do that. But
and don't forget the new clubs that are being opened, particularly in Washington, where you can, for $500,000, join their exclusive club and have access to everything you want. I mean,
it's $500,000, right, to join. John is exactly right. It's called the Executive Club, and it's run by Donald Trump's son. So the self-dealing and self-enrichment in this administration is on display on a level really unprecedented. I know we have a recency bias, but it really is unprecedented.
I want you to know, Mark, the reason I volunteered to serve on the Mark Thompson program, which I heartily endorse, is because of all the perks I get. I want you to know.
We need to send him some perks. I don't know, but the and the
I
gold
won't
card.
be bribed. I won't be bribed.
You won't.
Honest John Rothmann.
Shadow producer Calvin Wong says gold card for citizenship too. Yeah, I mean there is that whole selling citizenship, and citizenship in this country, and for those who have a lot of money, has always been more accessible than for those who don't have as much money. But now we're in a weird situation with American citizenship for
It's
sale.
corrupt. Your word was corrupt. It is the most corrupt administration in American history, and it will be so recorded in my judgment.
So take me to, I'm going to hit you with a couple of polls here in a second that I think reflect the fact that the mood in America has turned on Trump a bit. But before we get too, jacked up on that, I see a lot in right-wing media, and I've even come from a red state recently in the last week, and you see the ecosphere that they operate in is very different, and they are still rah, rah, rah Trump. So those things that enrage us, center left, if you will, they don't enrage the rest of the country. Give me a state of the state as you see it now in terms of priorities and those things that I think economics is going to leapfrog everything here in about 3 weeks to a month. But I'm curious as to your impressions.
Well, first of all, with deep regret, I hate to tell you that the old signal 810 AM, which was KGO and is now KSFO, if you want to hear an example of the defense of Donald Trump every minute of the day, that's what you listen to. And for somebody like me who suffers from low blood pressure, it works miracles. But it is astounding. There are just no words to describe the feeling that I have. You asked about the economic situation. Just take a look at the Port of Los Angeles. You are in Los Angeles. Take a look, Mark, at what is happening in the Port of Los Angeles. It is an unmitigated disaster. And yet Donald Trump seems determined to carry on.
Well, deliveries are down by a third, just to put it specific on it. Yeah.
Right. And so, what can you say? The ultimate decision will be made by the American people, and I can't wait for the midterm elections, because if I believe in the American people, and I know you and I have differed on this, but I do believe in the good judgment of the American people, I expect the Republicans to be clobbered in November.
Well, I think they are taking on political water. I don't have much faith in the good judgment of the American people, because the good judgment of the American people, as you put it, gave you Donald Trump to begin with, and they gave you Donald Trump a second time.
The people.
Okay, well, that was sufficient in numbers. So,
well, I'm hoping that the other half will strike back at the polls. And can I make a quick comment then as well about the question of the courts? It is clear that everything comes down to two justices of the United States Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett and the Chief Justice, John Roberts. In those two individuals' hands will determine whether or not, by a 5-4 vote, the Trump administration is stopped. All the lower courts are siding against Donald Trump at this point. And one can only hope the Supreme Court will come through, as I hope they will.
Yeah, there's a lot of hope being hung on this court that you would have recoiled from, I think, in the past. I don't mean just you literally, but I mean one would have. This is a court that's stacked with conservative judges. They made their first order of business rolling back Roe, and yet now we sort of have to look at them as daddy, daddy, rescue me. I don't know. I mean, you've got a highly politicized court. It is true that Trump has so gone after the legal system and the courts that it's quite possible that the justices on the Supreme Court will break back against him. It does appear like there's some of that happening already. So maybe that's well-placed hope.
Maybe. And then the question is whether Donald Trump will defy the court. And I think that is really going to be, when you talk about a real constitutional crisis, that would be a real, genuine crisis. Although some who are listening at this moment may disagree with me, I believe we're in a constitutional crisis now.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that phrase a lot. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I go a step further. I think you have essentially almost a completed coup. And that doesn't mean it's irreversible, but it does mean that you have a president and his functionaries that are operating completely independent of any kind of general institutional guardrails, Congress, the judiciary, and the rule of law. And one of the things that has brought people, investors, businesses, and students, the world to America is our respect for the rule of law. There is an equality that no one's above the law. That is something that you and I know that if you've got money, you've got a better chance at working the legal system than if you don't have money. But the general notion of working within the legal system has always been underpinning the U.S., hasn't it?
Absolutely, 100%. You go back and you take a look. I just finished rereading John Sirica's book, for the record. And John Sirica...
Remind everybody who John Sirica was, please.
Yeah, he was the judge in the key component in the Watergate cases. And he has a whole section in his book about the question of executive power. And if anything, what this court must do is to uphold the Burger Court's judgment that there are limits to a president's power. We have yet to see that happen, but I find it extremely distressing. And may I tell you, I am a big fan of the Constitution. And when the President of the United States stated on Meet the Press that he would ignore the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, due process, that is a violation of the 35-word oath. Do you remember the words? I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. That is clearly not what Donald Trump said on Meet the Press. And I don't know if Albert has the clip, but it is one of the most, and I hate to ask for such things.
You shouldn't. I'd warned you about,
What?
I warned him against asking for clips, Albert, and still he asks for clips. The guy can't help himself.
Albert, here's his ding word for you. I am incorrigible.
Yes. All right. I wanted to ask you about, just related to the rule of law, I wanted to ask you about sanctuary cities and going after mayors, governors of states, etc., who don't play ball with ICE and who defy these orders when it comes to rounding up illegal immigrants, people who are undocumented in this country and are in sanctuary cities and states that protect them.
Yeah, look, we have states, we have cities that are sanctuary cities. Donald Trump has threatened to cut them off. I can tell you that there is blowback on it and pushback on it, but that's what Donald Trump has instructed Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, to do, and that is what she is pledged to do.
He is within, and so with Pam Bondi as the top of justice in America, he is within his rights. Trump is to withhold these funds, these federal funds.
I don't think he's within his rights. I think, in fact, he's withholding funds, and that's what many of the court cases. You might want to go through a list of the court cases which Donald Trump faces, some 200 of them. I really believe that it is unconstitutional for a president to rule by executive order or to make these kinds of decisions. Look what he's done in terms of budgets. Do you know that not only is FEMA a critical part of our structure in terms of disaster, but Donald Trump is cutting FEMA. Donald Trump is I mean, you name the department. He calls it government economy. I'm convinced there will be blowback. There will be moments when things cannot be covered. And let me make one other quick comment about Social Security. Have you tried to call a Social Security office lately? You can't do it. And have you tried to make an appointment to go in and visit at the Social Security office? The cuts they've made in Social Security doesn't abolish the program, doesn't prevent the checks from going out each month, but it obstructs the ability of the American people to access what is going on in Social Security and how they may or may not benefit. The absurdity, and may I add the word obscenity, to what Donald Trump is doing is just astounding. One other example, NOAA, the weather control system that we have in the United States.
Administration.
Just wait until there's a real weather disaster. They are not equipped to handle that, and we all understand that. And I don't want to get off on everything, but look what's happening.
Just because it dovetails with that, I would say that what they're doing with the Forest Service and national parks. In the national parks, they are taking away the monitoring systems associated with air quality, and that's critical in terms of building a network of data about what's happening in the national parks and what's happening with air quality everywhere. Yeah,
it's nuts. And so when you talk,
these are not these are not expensive programs, by the way. Certainly, I mean FEMA costs some money, but the others do not.
And it should. That's the job of the federal government. What is the job of the government? It is to protect the people who need the most help, who are the most vulnerable. And did you hear again?
By the way, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you're so right about this. What John just said. Even those who would fall into maybe, and I know this is like a cool thing to say you're a libertarian these days. I don't think people even really realize, many of them who say that, what that means. But even if you consider yourself sort of in that libertarian camp, the one thing government is for, or one of the things, I mean, prosecuting a war, or defending military, this kind of thing. But as John says, when there's a national disaster, a catastrophe of some kind, it's too big to be handled by individuals who, put together some group of communities to handle it. That's what the federal government is there for. That's why the creation of FEMA was so critical and has done so much for so many states that have been affected.
And I also point out that there are mass resignations in the Civil Rights Division at the Justice Department. And if you really want to understand individual liberty and the effectiveness, well, that's it. It's right there. And so when I look at all the things being rolled back by Donald Trump, being, eliminated by Donald Trump, one can only hope that the courts will react. But now I want to be very clear. The people opposing Trump are winning in the lower courts. They're even convincing judges nominated, put on the court by Donald Trump. but it will all boil down to the Supreme Court of the United States. And when you know that Alito and Thomas are solidly in the Trump area, and you have 3 liberal justices of the court who vote routinely against him, what you are going to have is 2 justices, Amy Coney Barrett and Chief Justice John Roberts, who may determine the future. And then comes something even more interesting to me. The fact that J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, and the Solicitor General of the United States, are all talking about refusing to obey the court. And one of the things that I learned during the Watergate period, which I know is ancient history for a lot of people, is even Richard Nixon was unwilling to defy the courts. And the reason he fell in the end, if he had simply said, I'm not going to give you the tapes, up yours, why, he would have remained president or been impeached and removed from office. But did you know that we had a vote in the United States Senate, a tie vote? J.D. Vance broke the tie on the question of tariffs. Now, all you have to do is understand how tariffs work to understand that a tariff has to be imposed by Congress. It can't be imposed, it shouldn't be able to be imposed unilaterally by the head of the executive branch. Well, can you believe the United States Senate, on a vote of 49 to 49, abdicated its responsibility in this regard? May I tell you?
And the reason, but the reason that he's able to, just because you brought this up, the reason he's able to do it is he declared what?
He declared a state of national emergency.
Right.
And let me assure you, there is no national emergency. That's the other thing.
It's so weakly concocted. Exactly.
Of course. I mean, this becomes, to me, it's adulteration of what the American political system is. And I hope that I'm right. I hope that in the end, the Supreme Court acts. But if they don't, this has been a dramatically different United States of America, a dramatically different interpretation of the Constitution. And we haven't even gotten yet to the 14th Amendment, where I want to remind you that Donald Trump is now saying that he wants the idea of birthright citizenship eliminated. And I can only tell you, all you have to do is read the words. If you are, in the words of some conservatives, a strict constructionist or a literalist, the meaning is clear. And one other quick observation. I know we talked during the campaign about Project 2025. Everything that Project 2025 has asked for, they have gotten. And Donald Trump denying that he had even read the report was ludicrous during the campaign. But just take a look. I mean, there are charts.
Well, I believe that he didn't read I believe that he didn't read Project 2025.
No,
I don't think he's read the outside of an envelope. I mean, I don't think the guy reads it all.
No, you can't. But you see,
I think he's aware of it. I think he's okay with it. He's in bed with them, and he's turned over the keys to the administration, essentially, to Project 2025 agenda-related items. But I don't believe that he read 900 pages of Project 2025. I don't believe he read 9 pages of it.
I think the point is that he is following an agenda. And how do I know
That's right.
We learned many years ago that what you do is you judge a candidate for president by their advisors, by the people around them. And that's what we have done in every administration, which isn't always accurate, but it's pretty precise. And all the key figures in Project 2025 now have critical roles in the Trump administration. And that, to me, is absolutely unbelievable.
Well, one of the great authors of Project 2025 is Russ Vought, who runs OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, which is incredibly powerful. I wanted to share this.
You're right. OMB is one of the most powerful positions in government.
Yeah, people don't realize it because it's sort of like this, less shimmering kind of institution, but it's extremely, all the funding for the U.S. goes through OMB. This is interesting from a polling standpoint, and I know polls are something that people both recoil from and also embrace. I'd suggest it's important to look at polling, particularly if it's done well, from respected pollsters. And also, I'd say voting is a kind of polling. So, before everybody craps all over polls, let me just share this with you. And this is from G. Elliott Morris, who is a statistician who does a Substack called Strength in Numbers that I read. In the 2024 election, Donald Trump gained a surprising edge from an unlikely group Americans who typically don't vote. According to a New York Times analysis, these low turnout voters backed Trump by a double-digit margin, flipping the script from prior years when non-voters leaned Democratic. This wasn't just a quirk of the horse race polls. Campaign operatives, analysts, post-election surveys all pointed to the same conclusion. The less you followed politics, the more likely you were to vote for Trump. Now that he's president, something shifted. New polling shows that the very voters who powered Trump's return to office are now abandoning him, John. And if that trend holds, it could upend assumptions about how much campaign messaging and elite discourse really matter, because it turns out the people who don't read the New York Times, don't watch the Sunday shows, and don't care about the policy details still care when the economy sours and their lives get harder.
You're absolutely right. 100%.
And the latest polling shows that those people who showed up for Trump are not supportive of his economic agenda. These are the cracks in the armor that is the Trump movement that brought him to power for a second term.
Yeah, but you understand, Donald Trump doesn't care. He can't run for re-election. This is it. And he, by the way, finally came to the conclusion he can't run for a third term. Thank God. It wouldn't have made any difference if he'd wanted to. He couldn't. But the point is, he feels himself to be above the law. And I want to be crystal clear. I was only 2 years old when the 22nd Amendment rather was passed on two-term limit. I've always opposed term limits, and this is exactly the reason why I oppose term limits, because what you now have is a president who doesn't give a damn and whose power is unchecked. And this to me is
well, what I would say, John, is that the political damage spills over to those people who legislatively have to face their constituency,
You're
right?
absolutely right.
The Congress has to, and so the more toxic, and I'm not saying he's toxic yet, although, you know.
I think he's toxic.
Yeah, I think it depends who you talk to, but that toxicity does begin to bleed out onto much of Congress.
Sure, and that's going to affect whether the Republicans can control the House and Senate. But less people don't realize this. Even if the Democrats take control of the House and Senate, their power will be limited because they won't have large majorities. This is not going to be like the landslide of 64 or the landslide of, well, you can choose your year. It's a very interesting thing. So in terms of opposition to Donald Trump, we really have to rely on the courts. And this vote in the Senate, which I referred to just a few minutes ago, 49-49 with J.D. Vance breaking the tie, demonstrates the unwillingness of Republicans at this point in time, to cross Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to take the temperature of the water at different points in this administration. We're only a little over 100 days in, and the one thing I would really underscore is that the effects of these tariffs we have not felt yet. What you're feeling through the economy is anxiety about the tariffs. Mm-hmm. The tariff effect everyone is roughly aware of. But in fact, Trump commenting on, it's going to be a leaner Christmas and all this.
Don't forget those dolls.
Right.
Don't forget those dolls.
Dolls, pencils, etc. But the effects of his tariff policy, that will be felt in about a month. Certainly within 90 days, there will be dramatic effects.
Sure. And one of the things you talked about, the Canadian Prime Minister, and I found it fascinating to listen to Carney in the context of that discussion, when he made a statement clearly and precisely that Canadians can't be bought. And I think this is something that we need to understand. And Donald Trump, I hope, is getting a real lesson in that. I hope.
Well, he is used to everything being transactional.
Can I say one other
essentially,
word?
Carney said, hey, we're not a condo building, okay? You can't buy us. And yeah, I thought he made it graciously, but he made the point firmly. Go ahead.
Firmly. I want to say something about foreign policy just for a moment, because I know we're running out of time. I resent the fact that I don't have more time on your program. But I wanted to be clear about what is happening now between India and Pakistan, two nuclear powers who now confront each other with constant escalation. The Indian subcontinent, were it hit with a nuclear conflagration, the implications. By the way, conflagration is a ding word.
That's true. Thank you. I love it. A self-identified ding word. Go ahead. Yes.
That would be a catastrophe, not just for the people of India and Pakistan, but I want to remind you that it would also be a disaster environmentally, although it's clear Donald Trump doesn't give a tinker's damn about the environment. So I'm pointing this out. I used to kid people when I give talks. In fact, I'm giving a talk this afternoon, and I'll use this line. So those who are listening, I apologize. Cashmere is more than a sweater.
Yeah. Okay. I'd lose that line from your speech if I were you. Hey, but it is one of the cornerstones of Rothman is he likes those plays on words. Can you, without getting too deep into it, explain? I mean, this is a tense relationship between Pakistan and India, and always has been, right? Disputed territory, and neither really wants to see it escalate to the kind of nuclear confrontation that you referred to.
I agree. That's how Nixon in 1971 was able to master that confrontation. That's the last time there was a major blowup. And if you read Nixon's memoirs, he describes it very clearly. But we don't know the leadership of Pakistan today. We don't really understand their fanaticism and how they could react. This is a very serious moment, and I'm amused by the fact that it is not getting the headlines that it ought to be receiving. Because when you have two nuclear powers facing off against each other with no real restraints, potentially you have a real issue. So when you stop and think about it, Nixon once said to me, he said, John, 70% of a president's time is devoted to foreign policy. And one of the things where Donald Trump deserves a grade, and I think it's a failing grade, is on foreign policy. Whether it's Canada or Greenland, or whether it's the Panama Canal, or whether it is what's happening now. So I'm throwing these things out just for people to think about. And it's true that Trump uses a scattergun approach. Oh, I forgot Alcatraz, because of course I'm here in San Francisco and Alcatraz is right out the window and we understand it. I've been to Alcatraz, believe me, on numerous occasions, not as a convict or a criminal, but I can tell you that I've interviewed people who were in prison at Alcatraz. I've interviewed people who were prison guards. The idea of bringing back Alcatraz is the most ludicrous, ridiculous. And did you understand what happened? This is stunning to me. What did the National Park Service say? Oh, if the president orders it, we're willing to do everything we can to implement what the president says. I don't want a government which responds to a president in that fashion.
Well, that is absolutely the government you've got, whether you want it or not. And you're right. And this is the point I made the other day when he made this absurd notion come to life after having seen Alcatraz, the movie, to which he referred. He didn't refer to the movie, but he referred to, no one's ever escaped from Alcatraz. I don't do a Trump impression. I wish I did. But he said, one guy they haven't been able to find. They found his tattered clothing with shark bites. Rubbish. That was from the movie. That's in the movie. He's clearly seen the movie. So all I'm trying to say is he has these bizarre notions, but then what you just described is the thing that I think applies not to just this Alcatraz thing, but it applies to everything. And you could even find it in Trump 1, his first administration. It's everybody scrambles to actually get an action plan for whatever bizarre utterance he's come up with. So in this case, it's Alcatraz and reconstituting it and reopening it. In Trump 1, it was that ridiculousness about 2 million people voted in the election in, I think, was it Vermont or Maine or whatever, they were illegal immigrants and they voted illegally.
California. He said there were 3 million illegal immigrants in California, and he appointed a commission to be chaired by Mike Pence. And of course, it met once and that was it. A quick word about Mike Pence. I am not a fan of Mike Pence. I have to tell you, I listened to his interview on CNN the other night, which I thought was catastrophic on many levels policy-wise. But he deserved the Profiles in Courage Award from the John F. Kennedy Library. And some of you will recall that in the aftermath of January 6th, I suggested 2 names for the Profile in Courage Award. One was Liz Cheney and the other was Mike Pence. And I have to tell you, in that regard, everybody meets a moment. Mike Pence met his moment and will go down in history as someone who had the courage to stand up and say it. And although he's mild in his criticism of Trump today, he was very clear about what happened on January 6th. And if you read his autobiography, So Help Me God, he makes it very clear. And that's because Mike Pence, whatever you think of him, respected the Constitution and his oath of office. I wish I could say the same for Donald Trump.
As we finish up, because we're over time, I wanted to get a quick sense of what's happening with the Georgia senatorial race. Brian Kemp, who is the governor,
he's not running.
He's decided not to run. That's exactly right. So you've got John Ossoff, and he may be up against Marjorie Taylor Greene for that Senate
I hope
seat.
that happens, because I am convinced Ossoff would be reelected.
And so that is something that Republicans look at quite anxiously, because the reality is that Kemp might have had a chance, but it's likely that Greene does not. I mean, she's just such
I
a
believe
mess.
that to be the case. And Ossoff has been a pretty good senator, to be very honest with you. So we just have to see how these things go.
But just remind us why that's important, because of the
control of the Senate.
Yeah, control of the Senate. Exactly. It's a number.
And I regret that you and I, well, maybe we can, through your good offices on election night, of course, that's more than a year away, sit down and really analyze returns. We've had that pleasure before, and I hope we have it again.
That'd be great. John's podcast is the word I'm looking for, yes, is available every day. It's called Around the Political World with John Rothmann, and find him also on The Voice of San Francisco.
Under podcasts.
TheVoiceSF.org. Look for it under podcast. John, love you, see you, be you, always be you, John. Always be you. That's the word I have for you today. Thank you,
All right,
John.
and I'll see you next week. And keep up the good work. And he may not mention contributions, but I am.
All right. See you, John.
Thank you.
Who's Mark Thompson? It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
Envy wonton killing. I don't know what a wonton killing is. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
I was fortunate. Everyone I worked with made me better at my job.
I come from regular stock.
Liar, liar, your pants are on fire.
You are a cover-up artist and you are a liar.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
My words upset so many people.
Can you let him finish, sir?
I love it when you're angry.
Woo! I love it. It's our Wednesday show. Good conversation with Rothmann. Thank you for being here, everybody. Smash that like button if you would.
Smash
and also,
it with your iron rod.
I promised you that we wouldn't mention it. And so this is my mention for the second hour, that we're in the middle of Spring Ka-Ching, this channel. Desperately in need of your help. So it's our spring fundraiser. Spring Ka-Ching brings Louise Robinson in with a super sticker, and a big shout out to you, Louise. Thank you. Very generous of you. The $10 super sticker really does help, as does the $20 super sticker from Joan Quigley.
Big shout out.
Joan Q, thank you. Really, really cool of you for jumping on board. It is it's an effort. Carla Morris with a $50 super sticker. Come
Big
on,
shout out.
Carla Morris. Thank you. So very cool, Carla. Thank you, my dear. Really, really cool. And Scott Rittenberg, I'm still searching for an RV so we can get the Mark Thompson Show mobile. You can be the Max Headroom of the 21st century. Live long and prosper. I love that idea.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
I love that idea. I'd love we talked about that at KGO. Remember, Albert, when BART was auctioning off or selling their decommissioned BART cars? We talked about buying one. They were $10,000 a piece. And I even said, I'll buy one with my own money and we'll put it up somewhere, but there was nowhere to put it. Like, there was no back lot at KGO. This is the radio station that we were working at. There was no, I thought it would be a great place to set up a studio and do a whole thing. They're really heavy, so it's not easy to transport. We didn't really get it off the off the chalkboard because of just the limit on space. But I love the idea of a mobile unit. Great idea. Mark, Kim, Albert, and Tony, you're also great at what you do every day. Keep the show going. Vilma and OG, thank you for that super chat. Thank you, Vilma. Really appreciate it. Kaisuke Warner, how about a $20 super chat?
Big shout out.
Super sticker. And Kaisuke, I hope I'm saying it right. That is a super cool name. We love names on this show. So Kaisuke, very, very cool. Thank you for that. Gwen Roberts with a $5 super chat. Thanks all y'all, she said.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. Yeah, really. Mark, been with KGO since 1986, says Jack Jack. I always said government is a racket and politicians are racketeers. Jack Jack with a $20 super chat. Cannot
Big shout
argue. Sadly, I'll just say this, because I think that's true on some level and maybe on multiple levels. But we need some system by which we are governing a almost ungovernable kind of state. I'm talking about the state of the nation. And so we need to have some faith in government, which is why rule of law is such an exciting thing. I mean, if you can really adhere to a rule of law, then America can be a place where everyone really does have a chance. I think one of the scariest things that's happening right now is undermining the law, flipping the bird to the law, and just doing what you want to do because of the great power of the executive, which has been, as we know, conferred even greater power from the Supreme Court. Vivian L. Shaw with a $20 super sticker.
Big shout out.
Come on, Vivian. She's an OG. Great to have you and supporting the show, Vivian. You are always there for us. CBD. Come on with a super sticker.
Big shout out.
I love my CBD.
Can you let him finish, sir?
Yeah, well, I literally love my CBD.
Where are my weed smokers at?
I do. Harry Magnan, that was a BART idea that never got off the tracks. Is that right? Is that a play on words? Never got off the track? I get it. I get it. Thank you, Harry. $7 super chat. Appreciate that. Chaplain Fred, a $50 super chat. Here's what he says. Good morning, Mark, Kim, and Albert. Just want to show my support for your show, Mark. Thank you for having such great guests. I always am listening and trying to interact during the show, but I get so busy with my patients. Well, that's really cool that you would listen at all when you have patients to attend to. And Chaplain Fred, you are someone who has really stepped up for us in recent months, and I so appreciate the $50 super chat here. I'd say thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Mark, do you have a company P.O. box, or can we send you a check to KFI and they can forward it to you? This is from CC Ryder. The answer is we do have a company P.O. box. If you send me an email, I will send it back to you. So the email is themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. You have to put the in there. themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. Anyone who would prefer to send a check and get us money that way as part of our Spring Ka-Ching fundraiser, do it through the markthompsonshow@gmail.com, and I will send you back an address if you prefer that. If that's easier than PayPal and Patreon, please do it that way. The markthompsonshow@gmail.com. Big shout out to all of you who have helped us through this period. It's a critical period, and I really appreciate everybody stepping up. Kim, I'd love to get some news in if I could.
I'm ready.
And then I'll get to some additional shocking stories that are coming out of Washington, D.C. I mean, literally Washington, D.C. You've got ICE agents raiding these high-end restaurants in Washington. It's really kind of a weird look. There's a sense that ICE agents are they almost have a Gestapo-like tactic and style. And I'll give you some of the specifics on that when I share that story with you. But right now, I'd like to get some news from Kim, and then we continue. Smash that like button
with your iron rod.
I do need a quick cup of coffee before the. I made just a quick pour over today. I made they're just the individual pour over cups because I was kind of in a hurry. There's a lot going on. I got the cat who's not doing well, and poor Courtney's just gotten out of a medical procedure. So I've got, it's like everything here is crazy. But I must tell you, this coffee is delicious.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
It just
Sip
takes
of
a
coffee
little
makes it
to
all better.
remind you
Mhm.
what you love. You can have a coffee cup just like mine. That is to say, a cup of coffee just like mine. You can have it from our coffee sponsor, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Use Mark T at checkout for 10% off. All right, that is it. Kim's News, and we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. While the Pope Watch was on, there are thousands of people today that crammed into St. Peter's Square. They were looking for any sign of smoke to come out of the Sistine Chapel's chimney. The election of the new Pope, as you know, will be signified by white smoke, unsuccessful votes by black smoke, and we saw today thick black smoke rising from a chimney installed in the Sistine Chapel, signifying that the first vote to elect the new pope was unsuccessful. They are done for the day, and the voting resumes tomorrow.
I wonder how they choose the guy who does the smoke. Like, is that like a key draft pick situation? You know,
job. You've got to be well trained on the white versus black smoke task.
That certainly,
Yeah.
and you got to get that right. I don't want a lot of problems. Like, get the black smoke up there right away so we can all get out of here.
Don't screw it up.
All right. Anyway, maybe someone can research that. Continue,
Interest
please,
rates will stay unchanged. Interest rates will stay unchanged. In the Federal Reserve's announcement, it cites recent economic reports that have sent mixed signals on the state of the economy. Inflation remains above the central bank's target of 2%. Also, about 4 in 10 Americans say the United States is currently in a recession. 40% of us. The latest poll from the Economist YouGov found an uptick from 30%, which was previously reported in early February. Despite the increase, the figure is still lower than the 50% who had the same view in late 2022 and the early days of 2023. The poll also found 35% of respondents disagreed with recession claims. 25% were not sure when asked about that topic. President Trump says he wants the fighting between India and Pakistan to stop. Speaking from the White House.
That ought to do it.
Yeah, please stop. Wasn't it you just pick up a phone and end a
Oh,
conflict
sure.
or
You
a
could
war?
end any conflict within 24 hours.
Could you just call India and Pakistan, please?
Yeah.
He says,
hello,
the United-
operator. Connect me to India, please. Yeah.
I'd like to talk to the bomb dropper. The United States, he says, has great relations with both countries, and he'll step in if he is asked to. Tensions between the neighboring countries intensified coming after India's military launched strikes against Pakistan in response to a militant attack in Kashmir last month. Former President Biden is suggesting that he doesn't think an earlier decision to withdraw from the 2024 race would have changed the outcome of the election. I think we have video of this interview as well, Albert. President Biden ended his campaign in July of last year. During a new interview with the BBC, Biden was questioned about criticism on not stepping aside sooner. He says, "I don't think it would have mattered." He also had some comments about Vladimir Putin and Russia and the world order. Not sure.
Yeah,
if we have
Albert
video of
has
that.
gone to the little producer's room, I think.
Got
So
it.
that's why
Okay,
he's
we'll
not
move
yet.
forward.
Yeah.
The head of the Homeland Security Department would like the death penalty after a migrant smuggling boat crash. Boat was carrying about 15 people when it capsized off the coast near San Diego Monday, killing 3 people, including a 14-year-old boy and his 10-year-old sister. They were reportedly lost at sea. The U.S. Attorney's Office charged 5 Mexican nationals allegedly behind that smuggling operation. And again, the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, would like the death penalty in this case. The Trump administration is reportedly planning to send some undocumented immigrants to Libya. That, according to NBC News, which cited U.S. officials with knowledge of the matter. The deportation flight could happen as earlier as this week. Libya's government of national unity says, wait a minute, we're not working with the United States on deportations, and they are rejecting the use of the country as a destination without their knowledge or consent. Last month, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. was working on finding other countries that would take these deportees. Finally, some movement in North Carolina. Republican Jefferson Griffin is conceding the North Carolina Supreme Court race after months of lawsuits. He was trying to get a lot of votes thrown out. Griffin accepted defeat to Democratic incumbent Allison Riggs on Wednesday. This comes after a federal judge ruled against Griffin's legal challenges to thousands of ballots and ordered the state's election board to certify those results. Andrew Cuomo plans to run for mayor of New York City, but he will do it as an independent. Former Democratic governor of New York State announced the move Tuesday, saying he'll run as an independent regardless of whether he wins the Democratic primary. This, as current mayor Eric Adams is also running as an independent and skipping the Democratic primary entirely.
Responsibility for my actions.
Oh, yeah.
I have been too familiar with people.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't run on that. I wouldn't make that a campaign slogan. I'll just say I've been too familiar with people, Governor. But yeah.
Cuomo is currently polling first in that primary.
Oh,
you
my
imagine
God.
You've got Cuomo versus Adams. What a bunch of choices for New
Yeah,
Yorkers.
exactly.
I do hug and kiss people casually.
Yeah, of course. That's the best way to hug and kiss people, by the way. He's not a fool that way. Do it casually.
Who you vote for, the groper or the fraudster? We don't know. Allegedly.
Well, the problem, so here's the way I do it. I take out all the corruption and sexual harassment, and I look at who's governing better. You have to. I mean, that's where I start anyway. And
Not who's the bigger criminal. No. Just take
right.
out the crime altogether.
Who's best at criming? Yeah. Maybe do it that way. That's I don't know. That's a great.
I do hug and kiss people casually.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll look at the old, or maybe it'll be served up to me, the old Family Feud, like the original Family Feud from the 70s.
Yeah.
There was this guy, Richard Dawson was the host. He's a British guy, really great, very charming, and he used to kiss on the lips.
I know.
All of these women who were contestants on the show, these families. It was really, now when I look at it, it's totally creepy and awful and gross.
And it was normal back then. It was like, he's just a kisser.
They were hoping that he would kiss them.
Ew.
He met his wife on that show, by the way, Richard Dawson. So anyway, pretty crazy. Anyway, my point is, if you're a hugger and kisser, maybe, sadly, your decade was some time ago. No longer.
A Los Angeles City Council committee is advancing a plan to increase pay for hotel and airport workers. The plan calls for boosting the workers' minimum wage to $30 an hour by 2028. There are residents in one Bay Area community here near San Francisco putting up their own money to try to ward off burglars. Some residents in the town of Orinda have pooled their money to purchase their own license plate reader camera outside of their homes to protect the neighborhood. The residents there tell KGO TV that the 2 cameras they bought can cover 200 families by taking pictures of every vehicle that drives up and down their roadway.
So Orinda is in the East Bay, kind of San Francisco, and I was going to say they've got a few dollars, those residents, don't they, in Orinda?
Yeah, it's an upscale community.
Yeah, it's an upscale community. So it's kind of the thing that a lot of upscale communities are doing, and even parts of San Francisco, I think, they put together private security, and they're kind of taking matters into their own hands. In a way, they've set up their own governments within the overall government. So just as we talk about government and we talk about law and order and this sort of thing, it's interesting to see communities take matters into their own hands. I mean, it's kind of like the neighborhood watch, but on another level with the technology.
Famed Motown singer Smokey Robinson being accused of sexual assault by former employees. 4 women, all employed as housekeepers, submitted a $50 million lawsuit on Los Angeles Superior Court this week.
I do hug and kiss
this is
people
casually. This is way worse than hugging and kissing.
Among their allegations, sexual assault, false imprisonment, creating a hostile work environment. So it goes well beyond the hugging and kissing. The lawsuit also names the 85-year-old's wife, Frances Robinson, as well. Again, 4 housekeepers on that one. And lastly, the streaming giant Netflix today announcing a major overhaul of its homepage. It's going to be the first redesign since Netflix unveiled the current homepage back in 2013. So it'll be interesting to see how it looks. They also are announcing they'll start testing generative AI boosted search and a TikTok-like vertical video feed on mobile phones. Netflix says these changes will be at first small tests, and so not all Netflix users will receive the tools, kind of beta testing in certain areas, and then they'll do a larger undertaking if that's successful. So we're getting some Netflix changes coming up.
By the way, that just on the question of Hollywood tariffs, Netflix may be very much caught in the gears of that because a lot of their production is overseas. There's a lot of production across the board that's overseas. We talked about the other day. I mean, all the Marvel movies, half of them they're mixed in London, they're shot in London, or they shoot scenes from Mission Impossible in in Abu Dhabi or wherever. I mean, you're going to have to, I think, find your way through all of that. As usual, Trump makes these kind of reflexive utterances and doesn't really think it through. So a 100% tariff on movies not produced in the U.S., that'll have wide-ranging effects, and it's going to affect way more than just a handful of projects, and it's going to do a lot of damage. And I'm hoping that a lot of production comes back to Hollywood, but honestly, that ship sailed, and the efforts that have been made to bring production back to Hollywood have been pursued by the governor of California. You know, he's trying to institute many of the tax incentives that have been provided by states like Georgia and by communities north of the border, Vancouver. You know, in British Columbia, you can shoot for a fraction and produce films for a fraction of what you can in this country. So there is a real problem here, but the idea that there's just 100% tariff, it typically shallow policy from a guy who is shallow. He goes, identifies a problem or what he perceives as a problem, and then just goes, well, just throw in a 100% tariff on it. So it could very much affect Netflix. In fact, after that announcement, their stock dropped precipitously. So precipitously is a ding word. We'll see. We'll see.
I do have a breaking news story that just popped up on my screen, and this is that 3 former Memphis police officers were today found not guilty in the Tyree Nichols murder trial. They were charged with beating Nichols to death back in 2023. The whole thing was caught on video and became a national story. Again, the 3 officers found not guilty on all charges. So that's some breaking news as well. This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Mark is loving the coffee today. I'm double fisting it. I've got both cups filled with the vanilla tea. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm set for the whole day.
It's the reason that this place is fun.
That's it. All organic.
Coffee does, it is all organic. Go for it, Kim. Go.
Makes my life better. Check out the tasting notes on the website. They've really taken some time and they're very creative. It's CoachellaValleyCoffee.com is the website. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
Oh, the cold brew. We have a cold brew working right now on the counter. They send you the cold brew. It's not just coffee that you throw ice in or whatever. It is special coffee with instructions on how to do it, and it's simple, but they do take the time to add to their offering these instructions as to how to brew your cold brew, and it's really, really great. And on the tea side, it's loose leaf, it's bagged, it's whatever, but the cold brew, we're getting to that time of the year, so you may really enjoy that as well. I love a hot cup of coffee in the morning, but I will tell you, hot or cold, it is delish. Good stuff.
CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, and you've got the exclusive Mark Thompson Show discount, 10% off. There's Albert checking it in the code box right there. You click in Mark T, no spaces, and boom, 10% off. A couple days later, your box arrives, and it's always such a great day when that happens. I'm Kim McAllister, and this be the Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
They're envy wonton killing. I don't know what a wonton killing is. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
That's not fake. That's real.
I have never heard of something like that.
There is nothing in our history that quite compares to this.
Nobody has ever put something like this together that I've ever seen.
We've never seen anything like it before.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
I've never seen anything like it.
We could try ignoring this, huh?
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
My words affect so many people.
Woo! Love it. Our Wednesday show. Thank you for joining us. We're a live show on the East Coast for 2 to 4. Set your watches and phones and other devices. On the West Coast, it's 11 to 1. Thank you for being with us and around the globe. I got an email from Finland, I think, or it was a comment from Finland. So a shout out to Finland.
What? Was it from Asgard?
No, he's Norway.
Oh,
so
my
this
bad.
is Finland. They are close to each other, but they're separate countries. That's right. Finland has Lapland. You know, that's where Santa supposedly lives.
Sure.
And I remember being in Finland. I remember being in Finland, and they tell you, you should do this one thing that's touristy, which is to have your picture taken with this, someone is like a reindeer and a Santa guy. It's very touristy, but they said you really have to do it. So I was in Lapland. I remember being incredibly jet lagged. I was exhausted, and I go to this place where the guy is. And I remember he looked more jet lagged than I was. And like they just woke him up for this picture. And I don't even remember the reindeer. Maybe there was one there. But it is, again, I think that's the mythology around Finland. So a lot of people in the chat recognizing there's a big Hogan's Heroes because Richard Dawson, who hosted Family Feud, came out of he was in Hogan's Heroes, and a lot of people, the Rev says, Hogan, get out of my office. It's interesting. I Know Nothing was the, that's right, was Schultz's thing. It's interesting just on Hogan's Heroes. This is will appeal to maybe 12 people who remember that show, or who liked Hogan's Heroes. It was a prisoner of war camp. It was not a concentration camp where it took place. It was a prisoner of war camp. That was a really important distinction, I guess, at the time. And all of the German officers were played by people who had fled Nazi Europe to come to this country. It was really wild. I didn't know that at the time, but I did a deep dive on Hogan's Heroes one day, and it's fascinating. You can go look up the guy who played Schultz, look up the guy who played, who was the commandant, Klink, and Klink's father was there is Klink on the right. Klink's father was a famous conductor, musician. And that's the guy who played the SS officer. He talked like this. He had this and he also was, what's his name? Bolkarter or something? Bolkarter? So all of those guys who are playing Nazis, they all fled Nazi Germany and Nazi Austria and Nazi Europe.
Which is interesting that people that went through that and had such close contact to what happened there would have such a sense of humor about it, would be able to turn around years later and do a show like this.
Yeah.
Because it was a comedy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And they were just great. Yeah. But Eugenio de Arnal, thank you for the $5 super chat, my friend. Appreciate that, Eugenio. Big shout out to you. And apparently last night on Colbert, there was an interview with Father Guido Sarducci. This is from Uncle Russ. Father Guido Sarducci, for those who don't know, probably many of our listeners and viewers do know Father Guido Sarducci. He was an early SNL contributor. His name is Don Novello in real life, and he lives in Marin County in the Bay Area. We came out of the Bay Area, this show, so I always like to tip of the hat to Bay Area folk who did, and it was really a great, that's what Father Guido Sarducci looks like now. And I'll have to go check out the interview. We can't run it for you here because we'll be demonetized, but that's just, he was terrific on SNL. He used to be on the Weekend Update News regularly. And of course, with a new pope about to be chosen, he is very much of the moment. And I love that Don Novello. I spent, I think we had dinner one night in San Francisco, just a lovely guy, many, many years ago. Hung out with him one night. What is the pink? There he is. That's what Father Guido Sarducci looked like in the golden years of SNL, the early years of SNL. What does pink smoke signal? Says Michael D. I don't know. I
don't think anything.
I don't think pink smoke is part of the plan.
Black or white. That's all you got, right?
Yeah. Anything else here?
I have to look it up. Colors of papal smoke. Yeah, black and white. That's it.
Dan Ashley interview soon, maybe. Ask Calvin why. Yeah, we haven't checked in with Dan Ashley in a while. Katzenjam says, when your brain trust for Hollywood is John Voight, Mel Gibson, and Sly Stallone, this is the kind of deep reflection that you get. Yeah, Katzenjam is right. We're not really getting top advisors in any way and in any arm of government. We have rank amateurs everywhere. Look who's running the Department of Defense. I mean, David K. Johnston made the point so beautifully yesterday. You got a guy who was a captain. I mean, this is not, that's leaving aside drinking problems, sexual assault, all the rest. But it's a troubled place, Washington, because there are really no smart people around to push back on this president or even offer him anything but, high fives. Great idea, Mr. President. Oh, wow. I wish I was as smart and handsome as you are, Mr. President. So, pretty crazy. I did promise you one story. Let me go to, and then I want to get to Belinda because it is Wednesday and we like to check in on environmental stories. But this out of Washington, D.C., where I grew up, and it's always interesting. I get a lot of magazines and publications out of Washington. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
ICE agents are targeting D.C. restaurants. Millie's and Pupatella are among the restaurants to get a visit today. This is from the Washingtonian. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents began targeting D.C. restaurants yesterday, Tuesday, in what is shaping up to be one of the city's most high-profile examples yet of President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown. Millie's in Spring Valley, Pupatella in DuPont Circle, Chef Jeff's in Northwest, Chang Chang downtown, and Ghost Burger in Shaw are among the many businesses that immigration officials have visited. They're looking for I-9 forms verifying employment eligibility, and there have been no reports of detainments at any of these restaurants so far. Millie's caters to an affluent upper Northwest Washington crowd, 8 or 9 agents, some in plain clothes, others with uniforms and guns, swarmed the restaurant just as it was opening for lunch. They all came in, all of the public entrances at the same time, says owner Bo Blair. The general manager met the agents, who provided a notice of inspection and asked to question employees. The manager said that they couldn't, and they did not push back. They asked for I-9 forms the restaurant keeps securely at the corporate office, not at the restaurant. The quote, they made it pretty public that they're coming back to the restaurant to collect the forms, which is pretty unnerving to the staff, obviously, says the group's CEO, Marisa Casey. She says she is asking them not to come back to the restaurant because the documents are not kept there. We don't want them to go back to our restaurants and scare everybody, she says. They're not worried, she says, for their own sake, but they're worried for their business. We were under the impression that they were focusing on trying to find criminals, said the manager of the restaurant. This is just a whole new level of harassment to our hardworking, law-abiding employees. This reminds me of what they used to do to black-owned businesses in this country. They used to go in and check for something, just a general check of some kind, checking licenses, all the rest, but they come in with all these police officers and law enforcement people. In this case, it's ICE agents. They come in with 9 agents for a restaurant. I mean, it's clearly designed to shake people up, but it has a horrible chilling effect on business. But this is the new world we're living in. I mean, these are, in my judgment, Gestapo-like tactics. And I really hate to always default in any way to that Third Reich thing, because I think that's used a lot. But, this is stormtrooper type stuff. So that's what's happening in Washington, D.C., even at high-end restaurants. There they are. Wow, Albert, really great job of hustling this video. So look at that. The restaurant's just open and all these people are there. This is, again, top-tier restaurant in Washington. So as these immigration policies find their way to court, there are other ways to have a chilling effect on hiring employees who can anyway have even the shadow of doubt around them. ICE and Homeland Security agents going into D.C. restaurants, and essentially this is an intimidation tactic. That's the manager of the restaurant, that Bo Blair, the owner of this place, Millie's.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
Thank you. Ron gets it. Ron gets it. All right, we continue.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Wednesdays, we like to take a moment to check out what's happening in the planet and on the planet, the environment. These are tough times, but we have someone with us who likes to concentrate whenever possible on the good news and finding the good news in it all. That doesn't mean she exclusively focuses on that, but it is nice to talk to someone who balances my bleak view of the future. We do it in a segment we call It's the Planet, Stupid.
The planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet
Earth.
A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet, stupid. No. It's the planet, stupid.
And our guide for It's the Planet, Stupid is Belinda Waymouth, eco-journalist.
Hi.
And hello, how are you?
I'm fantastic and very happy to be here to help you get balanced, Mark. Some people are fixers, I'm the balancer. That's what
Thank you. I do need to be, my bleak, pessimistic view of the future needs to be offset by some of your optimism. So what do you have for us today?
Well, I've got a couple of stories today. We're going to get to the fun one about an animal that's gotten a reprieve because the Chinese have taken it off their traditional Chinese medicine pharmacopoeia list for this year. We'll get to that one. Very cute. And Albert will have some pictures for us. But let's start off. This is another story in China because this is sort of unbelievable what's happening there with electric vehicles. And very importantly, charging electric vehicles, because, there's a lot of, they call it range anxiety. It's like your performance anxiety, but in your car. And range anxiety is being addressed with the fast charging, supercharging. And China is doing, going great guns with that. Their supercharging can take an electric vehicle from 10 to 80% in 15 minutes. That's twice as fast as what Tesla can do. So, Mr. Trump's best friend does need to leave. He needs to go back to Tesla and get working on some stuff because he is so being outcompeted by the Chinese. Now, what they're doing now is, so they're going after commercial vehicles. So last year, almost half of the big heavy-duty trucks that were sold in China came with this, it's called battery swapping technology. And it's a real game changer because a big heavy duty truck those batteries are enormous. They take a long time to charge. But if it could just drive into a station, like a gas station, and have the one battery, a depleted battery, swapped out for a full battery, that is a whole different...
Sure, that's like a pit stop. That's great.
Yeah, it's like a pit stop.
That would take 5 minutes. Yeah,
it takes 5 minutes. So this is really, really a game changer. And it was good that we showed the taxi first because also, taxis, buses, vehicles that have a centralized, place that they go to. What their routes are, when they're busy, when they're going to be, need charging. And so they're really looking at ramping this up, and the rate that the Chinese are adopting. I mean, also, ding dong, pay attention, Mr. Musk. So 2 decades ago there were 500,000 electric vehicles on the road in China. There are now 16 million. And
wow.
and another 5 million hybrids. I mean, the adoption is, it's total hockey stick. They are on the upward exponential growth curve. And then with this battery technology, this is a huge game changer. And just to go back to Tesla again, to his credit, Elon Musk did actually launch in 2013 a battery recharging. He put in 90 locations. They were between LA, San Francisco, and then between Washington and Boston. But EV or electric Tesla drivers didn't like it. They want to have their own battery. They want to have their own battery, which they know is brand new. It's at the beginning of its life. They're not going to be swapping out for a lesser battery. And this has been a little bit of a problem in China, because if a taxi driver comes in and he's got a brand new battery in his car and it really holds the charge, and he does his 5-minute swap and then goes out to do the rest of his day, and he ends up with an older battery that doesn't hold its charge as long, apparently these taxi drivers will come back and yell at the guys who put the not so good battery, they replaced their good battery.
And have you ever heard somebody yell in Chinese? It's not a pretty thing.
No. Well, it's not nice to be yelled at by anyone in any language, but
right.
I suppose if it's in Italian or French, it's there's a sort of a passion and a drama to it. But there are pluses and minuses.
I'm seeing this. Let me just address this as you're speaking, because I've seen it from a couple of people that major issue not being addressed. Chinese EVs are not that reliable. I don't know about that. I think it really depends on the brand. I've actually read that there are really reliable Chinese EVs, and then there are also some that are not as reliable. They have, as is being noted today by Belinda, and I think she's referenced it before, they've really been on the cutting edge. There'd probably be a lot of EVs from China on the roads of America, were it not for the fact that they are tariffed already tariffed so enormously. But
because they're high-end ones are, so deluxe in comparison to it. I mean, they leave Tesla in the dirt, what they're producing. And, obviously, yes, it's not going,
it depends on the car you're driving.
Technology. Like with all cars, there are quality differences. Yes, absolutely.
I was reading something from Australia, because Australia doesn't have the tariffs that we have, and of course Australia is closer, and they are the number 3 cars on the road in terms of numbers in Australia, and so there's a lot written in Australia about their dependability, and it's all about which one you're driving, is what I was reading. So.
Yeah. Well, like with any car, a cheap car here that's powered by gas is going to be very different to an expensive car. And the thing is, with any new technology and with any change, there are going to be, growing pains. And there are definitely with this, because one of the things for car manufacturers with battery, the battery is a huge component. Like if you have a really good lithium battery technology, that's a real plus. If you're General Motors and that your battery is superior, to Toyota or other car manufacturers out there, that's a big deal. And the car also has to be compatible. It has to have battery swapping technology that works with the station that it goes to. But it just is going to be a game changer. And this is progress, and this is happening, and China is going to be the leader. And so, sort of wake up, Washington, because do you really want to be left behind while you're holding on to a gas nozzle at some gas station? It doesn't make sense. It's idiotic. And I don't know if you remember back in 2023, and there are some great pictures in that second link that I sent, Albert, about 2- and 3-wheeled vehicles, because the majority of the world is not in a 4-wheeled vehicle like we are. We're lucky. The majority of the world are, on a 2- or a 3-wheeled motorcycle kind of contraption. This is how billions of people get around in cities in India, on the African continent, Indonesia, Thailand, you name it, Vietnam. I mean, in Hanoi last year, we saw a family of 6 people on one motorbike. It's unbelievable. And then the pollution that these people are dealing with is awful. And so when they started adopting. So they're really adopting in India and on the African continent. Nairobi is going great guns with this. Motorbikes, which are used as taxis, that are doing battery swaps. It's super fast. The battery lasts for a whole day of work, and you're addressing emissions. And I have to point this out, and I know I've done this a lot, but transport is the biggest way we can cut our CO2 emissions. Transport is responsible for 20% of the planet warming gases we're putting up into the atmosphere. So dealing with our transport is super, super important. And when you've got all these countries, the developing world, going great guns with their motorbikes and their three-wheeled vehicles and adopting electric, I think it's a lesson to the rest of us, and it makes sense. It makes sense for human health as far as cardiovascular, all of those things go, our lungs, and then what we're doing to the planet. So this is
sure, it makes perfect sense. I just it's interesting because I see that three-wheel vehicle, and I'm reminded when I went to Asia, and it almost didn't matter what Asian country, there were a lot of those. They were combustion engines, though, and they did smell up the joint. There was a lot of smoke. There was a lot of exhaust discharge. You're saying that those are now being converted to EV. That makes so much sense. And so that, because one of the things I fear in the future for America, because they are rolling back all of the regulations on toxins and smoke into the air, et cetera. I mean, that's an agenda item right away they're acting on. So you're going to see a lot more, I think, in air quality issues than, as you've just sort of, emphysema, all these other things, heart, cardiac issues. But one of the things that I really noticed in Vietnam and across Asia was, man, you can really smell all the time the carbon monoxide. It is everywhere. It's like it's depressing almost. You can't get a deep breath of clear air.
Yeah.
And I think there's some American cities that have that problem, depending on where you are in the city. So I'd love to see these three-wheelers that are slowly being replaced by batteries get fast-tracked, because I think these regions in Asia would particularly be helped by this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when we were in Hanoi last year, I loved Hanoi, but I was like, I've got to get out of here because this air is intense.
Thank you. Exactly. Right.
Yeah. It's really hard. It's hard to breathe, and everyone is on a motorbike or in a tuk-tuk, three wheels. And so, yes, it's going to be a game changer. Look, 8 million people die from air pollution, a year, and this is not going down. So the fact is, this is there are two positives also with this, really putting the emphasis on batteries. So, we're always talking about how do we store all the renewable energy that's made during the day, the sun and the wind, when the sun is out and the wind is blowing. Well, battery storage facilities can be that. They can store, excess energy, renewable energy that's being made. So that is very good. And there was one other thing I was with. So just to put it in perspective a little bit. So in 2023, Bloomberg, they estimated that electric vehicles, and 60% of them, these 2- and 3-wheeled ones had, but also electric cars and hybrids had dropped oil production by 1.8 million barrels a day, because there are that many EVs in the world. And that's just with, 4% of transport coming from EVs. So imagine, as we build that up, how much, that is going to, affect the demand, for oil. And so I think this is, it's just, it's the way of the future. We
it feels like an inflection moment. I agree with you.
Yeah.
By the way, I wanted to, because I guess I said carbon monoxide, but of course our audience is smarter than me. Inlays says carbon monoxide is odorless, Mark. That's not what you're smelling. I didn't know that. Whatever. It's the exhaust. I don't know. It's like benzene. I know you can't smell that. formaldehyde. It's a bunch of crap that's in that exhaust. I don't know what I'm smelling, but you can tell when you're smelling exhaust, and you smell
Yeah.
it's thick in many of these Asian cities. So,
Well, when you've
but
got
thanks
all
for the
that
correction.
particulate matter that's also, coming out of an exhaust, and there are there's plastic in tires, so the pollution from tires on the
sure. So
road,
all
and
that stuff. Yeah.
all of that stuff. Yeah, it's ghastly. And then also different places have different rules as far as lead in petrol and things like that. I mean, we're lucky here that we don't have the lead in the petrol, anymore. But yes,
Katzenjam says cuts down on noise pollution too. Yeah, I mean there are a lot of
yes,
positives
and that's
to
huge. Yeah, the noise pollution is enormous, because that's the thing that people, in India and Africa, when they're interviewed, they say, "Well, I like the ride; it's smoother, it's less noisy, and it smells better." So it's good on a lot of different levels, and I think supercharging and then battery swaps. Just like we're doing. House swaps and car swaps through, all these different, apps that we have to, Uber and Airbnb and all these things. So let's do it with EVs as well, so we can, make this transition, happen quickly. Good for our health, good for the health of the planet.
Agree. All right. In our last moment, please, share more.
Pangolins. Oh, so these poor little guys, they are the most trafficked animal in the world, the number one. And there are these huge bans on trafficking of pangolins internationally and also domestically in China. But of course, they have been part of Chinese traditional medicine. There's a proprietary medicine. It's called I could be pronouncing this wrong, but Guilin-G, pardon me if I'm saying it wrong. But this year, the Guilin-G has been, look at that cute little thing, and they take its scales, and they use the scales along with seahorses. They take seahorses as well, and they make this Guilin-G. And of course, it's like rhino horn. It doesn't, rhino horn does not help you with your, business, gentlemen. And the pangolin, this medicine, Guilin-G, it doesn't have a medicinal value, but it's been part of traditional Chinese medicine for years. But the big thing is this, and 19 other traditional Chinese medicines are off their pharmacopoeia list for 2025. So it was released, the new list, March of this year. It will come into effect October 25th of this year. And hopefully it will, really have an immediate effect on the trafficking of these poor, cute little pangolins.
Yeah, it's so sweet. They are sweet and they are cute. And as I recall, they were blamed for COVID initially, like the pangolin wet market thing. It was thought that maybe they were behind it.
Because
Yeah, right. So because they're traded in the wet market. Yeah. So I'd love to. So you're saying that the Chinese government has officially sort of taken them off the pharmacology list or whatever?
Yeah. They have this list, and it gets published. I think it gets republished every year. And this year, 2025, they are off the pharmacopoeia list, along with 19 other of these, proprietary Chinese recipes for medicine. I can't remember I haven't looked up what the Guilin-G is used for, but, it's when it's been, researched and evaluated, it doesn't have a medicinal value, so it's like the poor bears that we talked about, the black bears that are, having their bile sucked out of them while they're alive. And that, the only thing that helps with gallstones, there are, artificial, equivalents that we can use. We don't need to torture these poor bears, and now we can stop hunting these poor pangolins. So
I love it. That is the good news that I wanted. Thank you, Belinda.
You are welcome. My pleasure.
I mean, sadly, I'll say, because it is my role on the show to, for the cold slap in the face to everyone who gets high on the optimism. There is a black market for all of this, and so even though it gets off the list, you can still get it the same way they do it. They do it with the tiger's, paws and all the other exotic animal nectar that they feel becomes, to help you with virility and all this other crap. It's total voodoo medicine. Thank you, Santi. But so you'll still be able to get it, but But it's great that it's off the official list, which I think is really encouraging. So really, really cool.
I think it's really important, and I think the thing is also it takes time for the education. You know, it takes time for the generations of people who've really believed in these traditional Chinese medicines, you know, to be replaced by generations who don't believe in them and realize that rhino horn is just agglutinated hair. It's like a fingernail, you know. And, you know, for people in Asia to understand that elephants die for that ivory. They don't just take the tusks and leave an elephant. You know, a whole elephant has to die to, you know, give up their tusks for your little trinket and ivory. And when people get educated and aware of these things, it does change behavior. So, you know, obviously you and I and a lot of our listeners, we wish the change was happening faster, you know, and that's understandable, but the fact that there is change, we have to focus on the positive.
Right on. I mean, yes. Even my cynical self, I completely agree with you. Find Belinda across social media. Belinda Waymouth, Waymouth. So grateful for your contributions here on Wednesdays, and thank you.
Totally my pleasure. Bye bye.
That's It's the Planet Stupid for today.
More. It's the Planet Stupid. No. It's the Planet Stupid.
Next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show. Well, I'm very sorry that we have to wrap things up. I feel like we've got more to do, but wow, what a lot of stuff we got to.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I wanted to make sure that we got to before we end the show is the meeting on Saturday. Finally, between the United States and China. But it's interesting that in these trade talks where, you know, there have been claims that, oh, we're talking to China, and China's like, we're not talking to the United States. Finally, they're meeting in Switzerland.
Yes, Switzerland. It's Swiss Miss.
And they're not coming to us, Mark. We're going to them. We're going to Switzerland, Bessent and crew, because it so happens that the Chinese are going to be headed through Europe. And so they're not coming here. Make a note, we're going to them for this. I think that puts us at a disadvantage going in.
You know what puts us at a disadvantage? The reality of the situation. They are our biggest supplier. We're their biggest client, but they have many other clients, and they can and already have begun to build an economy without the U.S. Now, they want to make a deal. I think that's true. And I think it's very true that we want to make a deal. But the other huge card they have is what? They own our debt. Without China, we couldn't run up this incredible debt that we have. So China, if they were to drop American debt, they would destroy the U.S. economy. I've always felt that the real evolved battles of the future, and I frankly thought this was the future because I had these thoughts back in the 80s. The way in which battles will be fought wouldn't be through hot wars. They would be through economics. They would be through engaging in the world economy. And that's why America and China really have upper hands in all of this. And the EU, that's one of the reasons that the EU bound itself together with all of those different countries. There's greater strength in the EU as a result of that. And in the world economy, there is a real dominance and a shifting and a constant movement. And that's all very important. Well, China, and I'm not to say that China hasn't acted as outlaws when it comes to intellectual property and it comes to many of the ways that they do business, but to pursue this ridiculous tariff policy on them, it hasn't been thought out. It really was something that Trump just acted upon in this impulsive way without thinking about the future. That puts us way behind the eight ball, and they do have the leverage, as Kim has just said. And so what's reflected in the fact that they are meeting in Switzerland, in Geneva, we are going to them, and we're going to end up bowing to them in the end. Right. Now, I don't think that's the way it'll be represented. I'm sure it'll be represented here that, oh, they blinked first. No, They
fact that we
really
have
do have a considerable leverage in this conversation about trade.
the fact that we have to chase them down to, somewhere in Europe on their travels, it speaks volumes.
Yes, exactly right. So good luck, American negotiators. It's got to be crazy to have to pursue the policies of this mad king, because these policies are so half-baked. They are so ridiculous. They're absurd, and they represent a kind of economic malpractice. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's been given the world's leading economy, and he is shooting holes in the boat, and he can sink it. So I'll be very interested to see what they actually come up with. There were some more appointments. You saw Giuliani's son got an appointment from the new administration. I say the new administration, they're only 3 months in or whatever. There's a bunch of, again, self-dealing. We can get into it tomorrow. One of the things I've got for tomorrow that's pretty exciting is Dr. Paul Offit. It was a request from one of you listeners and viewers. It's a really doctor day tomorrow. He is the director of the Vaccine Education Center at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and he is an award-winning doctor when it comes to virology, when it comes to vaccines. He really may be head of the parade, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. He will be on live with us, and if you have questions, you'll be able to work those questions into the texture of the conversation. That'll be tomorrow. And Dr. Michael Daigneault is with us tomorrow for Vital Signs, which is his regular segment on this show. So we've got a lot of medical stuff tomorrow. And
Dr. City.
It is Dr. City tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave anything on the table. Albert, is there anything I need to attend to before we say goodbye? I recognize Eugenio de Arnal. Thank you for joining us in our effort to get whole in the in spring ka-ching. Marilyn Schneider, thank you for the super sticker for $5. Thank you both. Great to have you supporting us.
Big shout out.
Big shout outs to everyone who's made contributions and supports us and is part of our Patreon and PayPal crew. You're all so great. Jim Eaton says this with a $5 super chat. I drove electric buses in Santa Barbara for 20 years, and I've seen the technology go from buses lasting 6 hours to now lasting 10 hours. Yeah, I think the technology is there. Thank you, Jim. That's really, that kind of real world story really brings it to life. I got a Tesla. This is my second Tesla. I'm getting rid of it in about 3 weeks because of the Musk thing. But I will tell you the reason I got it. It's an electric car, so it's quick and nimble and all that sort of thing. But I got it because of the electric charging network. It's just so better developed than any other charging network. Now, I think Electrify America has come up to speed, and now there's some other ones coming as well because of the proliferation of electric vehicles. But the reason I got Tesla was because they're all impeccably maintained. I'm talking about the charging networks, and they have fast charging. The quick charging is a big deal. So it's interesting to see the industry evolve to handle a couple of those things, right? The ways in which that grid is being expanded, and also the ways in which they are fast charging and quick charging a lot of these cars, and even including batteries. I think the Lucid goes 500 miles. So you've really got a changing face when it comes to electric vehicles. Jay Leno has a good electric car conversion episode. It can be done easily, low cost, no huge mainframe computer, really in control of the car after installation. Zero sum. Thank you for that. We should get Jay on the show. I'll try to get Jay maybe to talk about that on the show and talk about other stuff. He's really a great guest. Scott Rittenberg, I don't want to leave you out here at the end of the show with a $5 super chat. I worked at Kinko's in San Rafael. Father Guido came through one day making limited edition papal paper plates. I have an autograph one. Yeah, he's great. Father Guido Sarducci, so funny. I can't wait to watch that. I didn't know that he was on with Stephen Colbert until somebody in the audience told me. So I saw this, Greenbeck, that the new administration is stopping the Energy Star program for appliances. You know, the little sticker that says, that it's Energy Star compliant. there's a lot of stuff when it comes to the environment. They just do not take this stuff seriously, and they're just dismantling everything that I think really was bringing us up to speed when it came to a consciousness about the environment and policies that relate to a consciousness about the environment. What can you do? Tomorrow, as I mentioned, medical experts from Dr. Paul Offit to Dr. Michael Daigneault and more. Also, the word about Doge and a new plan from Doge that you will not like. It involves your security and your information, your personal information, and what may happen to it. It's really a pretty scary scenario. We'll get into that tomorrow as well. Other guests tomorrow, of course, David Katz joins us tomorrow. And I want to thank everybody again for all the help with Spring Ka-Ching and keeping our channel on the air. So, After Party Live is next, and until tomorrow, if you would please, Shadow, with your magnificent voice, take us out.
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Kim, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Until tomorrow, everyone. Bye-bye.